Hello and welcome to TVP World here on our program News in Depth. I'm Diana Skaya. Explosive allegations are rocking Brussels. Claims that Hungary ran a spy network right inside EU institutions. Opposition leader Péter Magyar says Hungarian intelligence agents posed as diplomats at the country's EU embassy, collecting personal and political data between 2015 and 2018. And I'm joined here in studio to discuss these unfolding events with Todd, reporter at TVP World. John, so glad to have you here on News in Depth. So, John, you're actually working on a report today about these unfolding events. I mean, the European Commission has launched a task force, right, to investigate all of this, and pressure is mounting on Hungary's EU Commissioner Oliver Várhelyi, who denies any involvement. But before we get into it, I'm going to invite you to listen to a soundbite by EU spokesperson Balázs Uzsváry.
The Commission is taking note, of course, of all the reporting on the subject matter today, according to which there have been espionage operations pursued by a Hungarian intelligence service against the EU and members of its staff. The Commission takes, as usual, such allegations very seriously, and we remain committed to protecting Commission staff, Commission information and networks from illicit intelligence gathering actions. Now, this is a matter of operational security, which is why, as usual, I won't be able to comment much, but what I can say is that we will be setting up an internal group to look into these allegations.
So, John, we just heard that, a matter of operation security. What more can you tell us?
He didn't look very happy, did he? And hardly surprising. They're having to investigate their own people. You know, we're familiar with the idea of perhaps Russians spying on people, the Chinese getting involved in espionage, but one of our own, it's not so pleasant. So what do we know so far? As you say, among the commissioner that you mentioned, Oliver Várhelyi, he's Commissioner for Health and Animal Welfare. And now his name's cropped up. He's named in a report that was published last week that took us all by surprise. Although these allegations, there's been suggestions of allegations for a while. What we've got here is apparently a large-scale spy network run by Hungary's domestic intelligence service to spy on the EU, gather information, and to improve Hungary's position.
To improve Hungary's position. But let me ask you this. I mean, naturally, I guess the first question, you just mentioned it, the first question I would want to know is, do we have any Russian interference here? Could Russia be involved, or is this something completely different?
It's very easy to say Russia's everywhere, and we know they are. In this instance, we're focusing on Hungary. There are very close ties, as you know, we've discussed it in the past. There are very close ties between Hungary and Russia.
It's been Viktor Orban and
he's an unlike. I mean, you know, certainly one of the things when Hungary headed the EU Council of Europe last year. Viktor Orban embarked on his mission to fix the war in Ukraine, and one of the first places he headed was to go meet his Russian President Vladimir Putin. And he's got very close ties with him. Now, and he's certainly been supporting the idea that we shouldn't ostracize Russia. We should seek to be less, well, perhaps less aggressive, and he's not supporting a lot of EU sanctions against Russia. Yeah. But nevertheless, in this instance, we're talking about Hungary's security service, which commentators have said bears the hallmarks of a Soviet-era apparatus. It's been heavily criticised not only for the aggressive nature of what was occurring, but also its sort of ramshackle, shoddy approach to intelligence.
So what are you going to detail in your report that you're working on?
So what we're looking at...
Do give it away.
The idea is tease, not tell, but here you go. This is the bottom line. The fact that Péter Magyar has entered the debate, so he did this with a Facebook post and a post on X today, suggesting that, apparently confirming the presence of this spy network.
I'm just going to interrupt you right there. Let's see that post. We do have it prepared. Can we see that for a moment?
All right, let's clear things up. It was a well-known fact at the Hungarian EU embassy in Brussels that during János Lázár's term as minister between 2015 and 2018, intelligence officers were deployed to Brussels. In my opinion, the current EU Commissioner and then Hungarian EU Ambassador, and my former boss, did not fully disclose the truth when he recently denied this during an official investigation. As a diplomat at the Hungarian EU embassy at the time, I personally witnessed that after János Lázár took over the management of EU affairs, peculiar individuals lacking expertise in policy matters were sent to Brussels in covert diplomatic roles. These individuals were likely working for Hungarian intelligence services, with the probable task of collecting compromising personal and political information on both Hungarian and foreign diplomats and leaders. The vast majority of legitimate Hungarian EU diplomats, including myself, refused to cooperate with these suspiciously deployed new diplomats.
So there we are. You know, he's speaking about covert diplomatic positions, most likely working for the Hungarian intelligence services. So those are his claims today. I mean, he's entering the fray. You know, Hungary, of course, has an election approaching next April in all likelihood. But he's adding fuel to the flames of discontent, both internally in Hungary, but among Hungary's EU partners.
He's playing his own game, essentially.
Well, he is, but I mean, I find it very interesting that he's chosen to speak about it now. This emerged last week following an investigation by a number of notable...
So why now?
So why now? Well, that is quite a key question. I mean, he also posted shortly afterwards how well his party, his TISA party, is doing. I mean, he's making the gap between his and Viktor Orbán, the Prime Minister's party, at something like 15 to 16 percentage points. If you look at Politico's accounting, its poll of polls, the gap is something like 8 percentage points. So far smaller, but that probably takes into account some of the wayward opinion polls that we've seen from Hungary, from state media, which may not necessarily bear, it depends who you ask.
John, let me ask you, could this scandal weaken Hungary's standing inside the EU moving forward? And I mean, what happens ahead of their elections next year? Some of the
commentators I've been looking at would suggest that actually, perhaps it's not surprising that Hungary behaved like this. They are an outlier in many ways. We're talking rule of law, EU funding, the use of EU funds. But is it going to destroy their standing? Well, one of the key questions is, what do we do about this EU Commissioner? As we mentioned, Oliver Vahely, the EU Commissioner for Health and Animal Welfare. Now, the investigation is underway. He's denied all involvement. The question is whether he bears some responsibility, whether he bears criminal responsibility for what may have happened under his watch. Now, it's pretty much unprecedented for someone like Ursula von der Leyen to sack one of the commissioners. I think she has the right to do this.
Could she force his resignation?
Yes. In the past, when there's been a couple of incidents where we've had commissioners that weren't wanted by the administration, the pressure investigations have resulted in resignations rather than sackings. Now, we have to see how this unfolds, and I'm perhaps prejudging things here, whether it's going to ever reach that stage. But if, for example, this role was, this commissioner was sacked, and the role was unfulfilled, that would deny Hungary its high-level representation at the top of the European Commission. And maybe that's something that could happen. It really depends on what the investigation finds. So, in summary, because I want to get to a summary somewhere, there's a good chance that, if it depends on the outcome of the investigation, and there could be quite dramatic action should they choose to take it.
What kind of dramatic action are we looking at?
That's what I mean. The ultimate sanction is sacking a EU commissioner, which hasn't happened.
John, let me ask you, what about this entire situation's domestic political implications? How do you think the ordinary citizens are going to respond to this, or are already responding to this?
Well, I've used this line earlier, and I think some of it is it depends on who you ask, because I want to stress that Hungary itself is a rather divided society. And I think Péter Magyar, who was, a Fidesz party member of the ruling party until he split away in 2024 and formed his own independent centrist TISA party. So he's fully aware of this. So if you go to the countryside and find these rural communities that are maybe dependent on, maybe agricultural communities, perhaps some areas that are dependent, receive government support,
right.
They may be more supportive of the government. If you look at the cities where we have, we saw earlier this summer, we saw there were times when they were looking, when Hungary's ruling part of the Hungarian government was looking to crack down on LGBTQ plus marches and looking to ban the Pride March in Budapest. We saw a tremendous outpouring. Now, some of those people came from abroad, but I would venture the vast majority, and certainly the people that I heard interviews from during those demonstrations were Hungarian. So in the cities, this stuff, they're not so supportive of the Fidesz party. So we're really looking at whether this will. And your question was whether this is going to impact Hungary's domestic politics.
Right.
I'm sitting on the fence, possibly. But I would say more importantly, I think that Viktor Orban, as Prime Minister, has got other issues on his plate, particularly the alleged child sex scandal that's swirling around and prompted.
That's a lot of scandals taking place in Hungary in such a short time.
Let me jump in. One of the things we see in Hungary, and it's a sort of cyclical process. Come election time, we need a scapegoat to batter so that we can, so that Viktor Orban can, generate hate in one area and support for himself. Now, he's having to battle a lot of problems at the moment. Meanwhile, the Hungarian economy is not at all strong by any definition, and so he's got to face that as well.
We had a guest on World Talks here on TVP World, Jakub Jarczewski. Let's listen to what he had to say.
So, of course, due to the amount of European Union institutions based in Brussels and due to the amount of political activity happening there, this is very much one of the spy cities of Europe with multiple intelligence operations happening at the same time. But what needs to be stressed, perhaps, is that one perhaps can expect something like the government of Russia trying to interfere in the workings of the European Union, or the American intelligence services ensuring that CIA knows what is brewing in Brussels. But the principles of solidarity and the principles of mutual cooperation enshrined in the treaties of the European Union would make one expect that within the EU27 there is more trust and less attempts at digging holes under one each other. And so the operation by the Hungarian government is in particular worrying, since it showcases just how little there is trust between the Viktor Orban's government and the EU.
John, I do see you laughing there, but I am going to ask you, so ultimately, the word trust, what does this entire case reveal about trust between Hungary and Brussels and the EU?
I think it's fair to say there's no love lost between Brussels and Budapest. Budapest has been bashing the EU for many years, although at the same time relying on significant funding, of which there have been hold-ups and some funding, but nevertheless it receives a significant amount of money. The idea that you're stabbing your bank in the back when he's handing when you're being handed paychecks is absolutely appalling. Any decent society is going to go. You're going to ask questions. What are you doing? Why are you trying to gain? What are you trying to gain here? And is there no shame involved in this? there's a presumption here that this all bears fact, that this is all true. And if it is, it's shameless.
But let me ask you this, John, should it really, this entire case, should it actually come as a surprise to us? Or this is something that we should have expected coming from Hungary, given, of course, Orban's relationship with Putin, and like you've mentioned earlier on, it's continuous, blocking of, sanctions against Russia and everything in the EU. What do you say about that?
Well, does it come as a surprise? No. I read the story avidly when it emerged last week, but it's within the capabilities of Hungary. Once you sort of think more deeply about it, you can sort of understand, well, actually, this is what they do. I'm going to suggest, though, that we will all guard our secrets pretty clearly. We want to make sure when we've got message that we maximise the impact of this sort of stuff. But recruiting agents, forcibly recruiting agents, forcing agents to sign cooperation agreements, offering them money, these are classic Cold War type behaviour.
It's like a spy film that we're experiencing right before.
I like the comparison we heard there. It's not Vienna, but Brussels is pretty much is mirroring what we used to see in Vienna.
So what's next for Hungary, John?
Well, I suspect things will only heat up in terms of political discord and in terms of trying to generate interest in either party for the election. So they're locked in. It will intensify in the coming months, but they're locked in this with this target of the expected April general election.
Elections.
I want to say, but life goes on. We've got, there's still concern ahead of the cold winter period over gas supplies. That's going to be a bête noire. That's going to be something that Hungary will seek to exploit and to make the most of in terms of its what it would suggest is a deprivation of cheap Russian fuel. But we'll have to see how they continue to sort of play out in terms of their relationship with the European Union.
John, Todd, thank you so much for being with us here on News in Depth and your report. When will we be able to watch your report?
Tune in 8 o'clock CET this evening.
There you go. You heard it from John Todd. And that's all for this edition of News in Depth. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.